going to be an interesting week, I think. I really think we're going to have some. I just feel like there's a shock coming, either positive or negative, all about the trade war this week. But before we get into that, first thing I want to do is, make sure we just take a moment to sort of talk about Paul Volcker, who was the Fed under Jimmy Carter, I think, and is often credited with beating back inflation the last time it reared its ugly head in any kind of significant way in the US. And really, if you don't know who Paul Volcker is and you've been investing maybe the last, what do I want to say, 30 years or less, so back to 1990 or less, I think it would be a good idea to read a couple of articles about Paul Volcker and the things he had to do in the economy. Not because I see them coming anytime soon, but if you've been investing long less than a couple of decades, uh, it is certainly possible that sometime in your investing career, you may be investing in a time where inflation is racing ahead. And this is part of the things we have to do. We have to look at the history for signs of things that could be, could come in the future and how we would interact with them, right? How many times have you read a story or listened to some old timer, including myself, talk about, oh my gosh, I remember buying a home when interest rates were X. Maybe it was 18, maybe it was 15, maybe it was 12, maybe it was 9. But these are rates that you haven't seen in your investing career and may think they're not possible. You may not understand or appreciate what happens, when that occurs. So I would urge you to look up Paul Volcker, the economies of the early 80s, and really understand what was going on, what kind of sparked it, how was it finally beaten back. I looked it up real quick. He took interest rates at the bank to 20%, right? You would get 20% on your savings. It was like 19 and change, I rounded. But, today you're getting, less than one, right? What would happen, right? And of course, what happened is people just saved money, right? They were getting a great return and they would just save anything, which finally cooled the economy, which broke the back of inflation, which was racing ahead at 15% at one time. So inflation is nasty, right? Um, when that kind of gets going, it could be a problem. Now we've seen deflation, right, in prices, and yes, I know that we report inflation, I don't know what, every month or whatever, but we really haven't seen the ills of inflation in decades. So again, I'm not here saying it's coming. I'm just once again looking at the tea leaves and going, all right, well, Paul Walker passed away. I think he was 92, if I remember. And anytime you think something can't happen, that's when it could come back. And again, it's not likely in any kind of near or even medium term. But if you've only been investing a couple of decades, I think you do yourself a service just to go back and look at what happened, why it happened, all those kinds of things. So go ahead and take a look at that. The other thing I noticed is for a long time there was this quote about the Volcker Rule. It was actually a big deal, right? Coming out of the Great Recession, he is credited, hence the name, with preventing commercial banks from investing in hedge funds and private equity, right? It was seen as too risky. And I look at this today and laugh. I'm like, why would we let commercial banks do that? Well, they were chasing a return. And, the hedge funds and private equity had had such a great run. So, when people see long runs of success, there's no no thoughts of, the risk. They kind of walk away from risk and they just think good times will go on forever. And of course, that's not true. And if you've been investing for at least 15 years, you've seen some nasty things. So just appreciate that. Next up, looks like we've been on a pretty good run for this channel. Seems like a lot of articles are coming out and saying, hey, it's the recession that we thought would be coming next year, probably not. And the big question today is the economy late stage, like a lot of folks thought over the summer? Meaning, it's in an eighth inning of a nine inning game or whatever you want to call it. Or is it simply recharging, right? Could we could we be at a place where we're just establishing a new base camp or whatever it's called, and we're going to go higher from here? It's pretty easy to see why lots of people talk late stage. It's the longest ever expansion at greater than a decade, but remember where we came from. Um, 50-year unemployment records, right? There's lots of good things going on, but there's a lot of more good things that could come, right? Um, the one that I keep going back to is that the infrastructure, at least the highways that I roll on, and around here, there's just a lot more infrastructure that we could invest in, which could keep this going. Housing development and building really hasn't come back to even where it could be. Certainly, when you think affordable housings haven't come back, so we may be years away from the next recession. It will absolutely occur, right? The business cycle is real, um, but it doesn't have to be in 2020 or 21 just because it's the longest ever. That's not how business cycles work. So it is interesting. I do have one question for each of you. If you're still watching this, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the following question. So in 2020, right, the Federal Reserve will meet, I think it's 8 times. It might be 9. Let's just say 8, whatever it is. I am curious. Throughout 2020, what do you think the next move in interest rates are? Do you think they'll raise them? Do you think they'll cut them? Or do you think they're going to stay flat for the entire year? What do you think? Leave your comments below. I'd love to hear from you. From where I sit, I don't see them raising or cutting. I kind of see it rolling like this, right? If they do anything, it would have to be before kind of June or July, right? Stay flat. Yeah, me too. Yeah, because if they're going to do a cut or a raise, they're going to want to do it before kind of like August. Because the last thing the Federal Reserve wants to do is feel like they are impacting an election. Um, just historically speaking, I remember every 4 years they talk about this, right? So if they don't do anything, cut or raise before kind of like August, I don't see them doing anything for the rest of the year. And given that, I think the beginning of the year is going to be much of the same, right? With good news, I don't see a cut or a raise. So again, let me know what you think. Either, there's 3 choices. The next move's up, the next move's down, or you think we stay flat and deal with it in 2021. Let me know what you think. Next up, Morgan Stanley talked about the greatest risk to the current market is overpriced growth stocks. I don't know. I read stuff like that and I'm guessing Morgan Stanley got caught short. That's when I see articles in these Wall Street firms like that, I'm like, you're on the wrong side of the trade and you're trying to clean it up and scare us. I don't know. Obviously, I have no idea if that's true. That's just my filter of these big Wall Street banks. Obviously, not a lot of trust there. So I just thought that was funny. Uh, then there's, oh, did you see that China ordered its government facilities to remove all US based electronics in the next 3 years? I thought that was, that's an interesting move, right? So, China's going to say, get out HP, get out Dell, get out Microsoft, whatever else there is. And that's going to piss off the US, I suspect. Because one of the things we are trying to do in this trade war, near as I can tell, is open up the Chinese market and specifically around technology. And if the Chinese are going, nope, get out, I just wonder again if this week's going to prove interesting. Because what happens if we just go, no, no deal? We just walk away. We let the tariffs go into effect on whatever it is, Saturday or Sunday. What happens? I don't think the market's ready for that. I really think we could just walk away. I think by Wednesday, maybe Thursday, it's like, no deal, we're done. And that'll send shockwaves. And, now that I say it out loud, maybe we hold back till Saturday because we don't want to shock the market while it's open. Give it a couple of days to digest. But I really think we could just go no, right? We're sitting in the stronger position. Record unemployment, economy is certainly stabilized from where it seemed to have cracks a few months ago, and we still have some room to grow. So it will be interesting. Again, as I started this video, I think this is going to be an interesting week. I do expect a shock, and what I mean shock is, I mean a surprise to what most people think. That's what I'm thinking is going to happen. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. It's a very complicated negotiation. Lots of people and full economies, but also egos, right? Individual egos are involved. So it is going to be an interesting week. So again, let me know what you think. 2020, will the Fed raise, lower, or stay flat? Have a great day, and we will talk tomorrow. Have fun.